What's up, guys? It's KB. Make sure you subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel. Click the bell icon down below so you don't miss a single video from us. And thanks for tuning in to another video from Underground Sports Philadelphia. Now let's get into it.
Philadelphia, baby, you're going to love it. Best sports fans in the world. Actually, the worst, but that's what makes them the best.
All right. I think we are all set. What is going on, everybody? Welcome in to episode number 488 of Underground Sports Philadelphia. It's a momentous occasion because we've got more Philly stuff to talk about. The Phils are back. The Eagles are flying high. Tyrese Maxey's out of his walking boot. And we're in the end game of Survivor Season 43. So stick around for that at the end of the episode if you're a real one. But it's KB and Matt coming at you from Underground Studios. We've got quite a bit to talk about. But before we get started, make sure you guys are following us on the socials, Twitter, Instagram at UndergroundPHI, Facebook.com/UndergroundSportsPHI. And if you're watching live, you can watch live every Wednesday night for now on Twitch.tv/UndergroundSportsPHI. Follow Matt on Twitter at Matt Castorina. Follow me at KBIZZL311. Subscribe to the podcast feed, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. We're there. Leave a 5-star rating and review. It helps the show continue to grow. Takes it to the next level where Matt and I want to take this thing, including all of our podcasts on the network. Just search Underground Sports Philadelphia on your podcast app of choice. And, of course, subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel where you get full video episodes, live streams, original content of everything we've got going on here at Underground Sports. YouTube.com/@Underground Sports Philadelphia. We're on that road to 1,000 subscribers. We're currently at 322. When we get to 1,000, big things are going to pop off all across the network. So make sure you subscribe, smash that like button, ring the bell icon, comment down below your thoughts on everything Matt and I discuss on tonight's show. And be a friend, tell a friend, and share the channel with your people. And also, big shout out to the sponsors who make this show happen. Main Auto LLC, Security 21 Security Systems, Paul J. Gillespie Incorporated, and the Dental Wellness Center of Vineland. What's going on, Matt?
Living the dream.
We are certainly living quite the dream as Philadelphia is once again a Major League Baseball destination. We got our wish. Trea Day happened amongst a flurry of moves, not only with the Phillies, but across Major League Baseball. But the big one, Trea Turner is a Philadelphia Philly, signs an 11-year, $300 million contract, still reported, not official from the Phillies account yet, or, just from the front office, but 11 years, $300 million for Trea Turner. He turns down a $342 million contract from the San Diego Padres to be closer to home, be closer to his wife's home, and to come play with his best friend, Bryce Harper. And we've talked about this a number of times when we were talking about Trea Turner this offseason, when we were talking about players last offseason. The pull that Bryce Harper has as a guy to help recruit here, the fact that the Phillies went to the World Series this past season, Philadelphia's a destination again, Matt.
Yeah, it's kind of insane that two of the biggest free agency acquires I think in Philadelphia sports history have happened in the last 5 years for the Phillies. It's kind of bizarre the way that's turned out. Bryce Harper. In touch with his Mormon roots, converting and bringing people into the fold. So you love to see it, but it's a great signing. I never like when people automatically start talking about the last, because people did it with Bryce's contract too. It's those last few years. It's
who cares?
Who cares? The goal is clearly in the next 2 or 3 seasons to win a World Series. And you just live with that. You live with the consequences afterwards. So, he's a great player, fills a huge need for the Phillies, and I'm glad it got wrapped up early. We were talking about how nothing ever happens at the winter meetings. It feels like every year they get really, really blown up, and we've had the 2 biggest free agents done. So That's nice. I guess the 1 year they got it right that things were actually going to happen at the World Series. Finally happened.
Unreal. Trea Turner's here. The contract, full no trade clause in the deal as well. So he's going to be here. It's going to take him from his age 30 to age 40 seasons.
Now the longest he would by contract, he'll be the longest serving Philly. At least he'll be here the longest.
Yeah.
I think it's a few years longer than Bryce's deal. So
which is insane.
I believe his. Let me not speak out of turn, but I believe he changes his Instagram.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, his Instagram bio pic is him photoshopped in a
There we
Phillies
go.
uniform. So clearly,
every Phillies free agent now has attended at least one course of Bryce Harper, Nick Sirianni pandering 101.
Yeah.
We'll get into the next one in just a minute. But
I'm imagining him showing up with a cheesesteak in one hand and a Yingling in the other, and an Eagles hat on. Yeah, I'm just excited to see our Birds play the boys.
Yeah, what's
week.
going on, guys? First time, long time. I love these dudes when I was with the Nationals.
Bring back the Spectrum.
Bryce told me all about it. Spectrum Sixers uniforms. Bring those all the way back.
Yeah, so good. It's great. I mean, it really can't understate it enough, what a great player he is. And, I mean, too, even if you look at the AAV, it's not bad. Not that it's my money, so I don't care.
Exactly.
But, I think it's, again, I think it's a fair deal. And every year we say this, too. You sign, these big free agents, and 2 or 3 years later, you look at the contracts that get handed out. It's damn, we got in at the right time. You look at the Bryce deal now, and you think, what a great value that is on a player like him. So, yeah, I'm happy.
Yeah, I mean, he's been in the MVP conversation, got votes 3 of the years of his career. He finished second in the Rookie of the Year voting in 2016. And this is a guy who is, he's one of the best shortstops in baseball, defensively and offensively. He's going to steal bases for you. I saw something on the MLB Network, ticker that they have. I think the only player of the last 3 seasons, I think it was, that has more stolen bases than Trea Turner is Starling Marte.
Yeah.
If you put, my hope is that they put Trea Turner at the top of this lineup, let him hit leadoff, and then he's on the base paths for Schwarber to do what he did last year, just with at least one guy on base. That's going to be a complete, cataclysmic shift for this offense to just produce more. It's great that Kyle Schwarber can go up there, set the tone, hit a home run to lead off, but if he's coming up and doing that with a Trea Turner on base later in the game with maybe a Brandon Marsh and Trea Turner on base, it's only going to make this offense that much more potent than what it was last year. And when Bryce is back healthy, this is arguably the best offense in baseball.
Yeah, I mean, it's I think what you said too about his ability to get on base and how dangerous he could be. You think about that for the regular season, but you saw how important that is in the playoffs again too, right? Having someone that can be a dangerous runner. This team does not have a lot of gifted runners on it, so
it's literally JT.
Yeah. So and so much of that too is I think a little bit instinctual rather than something you can really coach. I just think too, and you also have to be athletic enough to be fast and have that actual capability. So yeah, I think he's going to be a huge improvement to this team. And I think, especially when you consider you're going to be without Bryce for half the regular season, someone's got to carry a little bit of offensive load. This helps you figure things out a little bit more. It gives you a little bit of versatility. And yeah, I think defensively too. I mean, Christ, Phillies were able to lock it in the playoffs, but the regular season does matter too.
Yeah.
It matters to win the division. I know it didn't play out necessarily that way in the NL at least this year, playoffs wise, for who had home field advantage. But it matters. It matters when you have guys that can get you those big outs, and it's an aggressive, positive move by the Phillies, which is good. This is ultimately, again, you can have your complaints, but this team has not been afraid to spend money. They've not been afraid to push the chips in, and a lot of fan bases. In fact, I would say I don't know, there's probably like 25 fan bases that would love for their like team to be all in like the Phillies are. You know, like whatever you can say about it, like if it works, it doesn't work, but like the Phillies are not shying away from this like moment, you know, which is good.
Yeah, like they're just like, all right, we saw what we can do with the roster we had last year. And I saw a great tweet too. I think it was Dave Esser tweeted it. Noted farm destroyer Dave Dombrowski has assembled this team and has traded one notable prospect for a guy who is 24 years old, is under club control for the next 5 years, and hopes to be your center fielder of the future.
Yeah, exactly. And that wasn't like for a rental, you know, or something, you know, like where it's a move that makes sense in a multitude of ways. So for me, yeah, I'm happy. Like, I'm just looking at like WAR, you know, like looking at like how like Trea would stack up with last season's team, you know. So like, do you know who our WAR leader was actually last year? This probably isn't a surprise because he just plays so goddamn much and is in such an important position.
Had to have been JT.
Yeah, 6.5 WAR. Then Nola with 6, Zach Wheeler with 5.1. Trea Turner, I think, had a 4.9 WAR, so he would have been our really second best like positional player. And there was Reese with 2.9. Bryce, despite only playing 99 games, had a 2.5.
Wow.
So, yeah, I mean that kind of highlights it right there, right? Like, just what a year that Bryce had, even without that. So, you know, he fits in well. And yeah, it feels good. You know, like I think too, like about the farm too, because we'll get into the next time we talk about. But you know, like we have these like 2 pitching prospects now too that you feel like can give you something through the course of this season, and you know that's important. You know, like the Phillies really haven't cleared the decks to get here quite yet. Like, and that can be important because you could use that. You know, like we get attached to these guys, and you know we'll be talking about Painter, and you know like we'll be thinking like, wow, these guys are it, but you know they're not always it, and sometimes they get you the piece that you really need in that moment. So
yeah, I mean, Trea Turner being here is massive, kind of set the market for the shortstops and kind of was like that first domino, I feel like, to really like get things to start rolling this offseason. And I mean, it got started a little bit earlier, and I love that Dave Dombrowski, ruined the parade for the Mets. As we get to hate on Kate Upton even more, man, as Justin Verlander is going to New York after their Lord and Savior Jacob deGrom is going to Texas.
She did shit on the Yankees, though.
It's true.
So for that, you know what?
Well done.
Game, respect game. You know.
DeGrom gone, replaced with Verlander, who is 40 years old, but is coming off a Cy Young season. He's won 2 out of the last 3 American League Cy Youngs. How much of that is attributed to the Houston Astros, pitching? And we've seen that with a number of guys. Garrett Cole really hasn't been the same since he left the Astros. We'll see what happens with Verlander. But now the Mets are relying on 2 guys who are in the geriatric ward in terms of sports, with Max Scherzer, who got hurt last year in the postseason, got lit up by the Padres, and now Justin Verlander in their rotation. And they also went out and signed Jose Quintana, and I guess they're just assembling guys in their rotation that the Phillies love to light up.
Quintana, I liked. I know that the Phillies were like sniffing around there too. I would not have mind, even at the trade deadline, was someone that you would have liked. So I don't mind that signing. For Verlander though, it's like, man, the Mets are a little bit confusing. Like it's just I in some ways I get though. Like I think they're trying to build like this stable, perennially competitive team while they like build the farm system. Yeah, and just kind of become like, I think they're really trying to like import that Dodgers model, right? Where it's you're able to spend money in free agency, but you're not going to be spending money like they have been the last 2 seasons. But you have that ability to break out, the $30 to $40 million a year type deals. But you have that like steady stream of every year you're getting 1 or 2 guys that are contributing for you from your farm system, because that is ultimately I think the ideal way that teams want to be run, that teams aspire to. So I guess that's the direction they're heading. But they have like 80-something million tied up between Verlander and Scherzer. Yeah. Which, I mean, they're both like, I can't say they're not great pitchers, but like both of them have their concerns. Again, Scherzer, especially the last few seasons in the playoffs, has not looked great, and Verlander had good moments in the playoffs, but also had like shaky ones too. Like, I don't know. It's just it's a big gamble to take at that age, where it really feels like those are the two guys that you're really dependent on now. Again, there's no DeGrom to like ease that pressure.
And I will say, I can kind of agree with like Mets fans' justifications on, would you rather have 5 years of Jacob DeGrom, who has not finished a complete season over the last 3 years, or 2 seasons of Justin Verlander, who since coming back from Tommy John surgery has looked like a brand new pitcher. Yeah. And I think the risk reward is far greater in terms of just giving 2 years of a contract to Justin Verlander than it is to, keep your fingers crossed that Jacob DeGrom can stay healthy at age 35.
Yeah, I think that's fair. That's fair decision making, But I felt like the Mets have been in a tough spot the last 2 years now, where again, it's hard to it's hard to be as all in as they are while also thinking about the future as much as they are. They're kind of, I feel like the Mets are caught between two frames of mind, and that's, I think, explains a lot about them.
Yeah. And speaking of the Mets, Matt, before we get into more of the Mets and the Phillies, I want to talk to everybody about our amazing merch partners, PHI Apparel Company. They've got new Trea Turner merch available on their website right now, and it's 2 pretty awesome designs. There's a pretty famous movie poster recreated there. I don't know if you saw this one, Matt, but it's pretty nice. The old Step Brothers, Trey and Bryce, and then there is also the Ice Tray, which is, not sure where it went, but there is another Trea Turner design on their website as well. They've got Christmas sweaters available as well for the Eagles and the Sixers. The shout out Brooklyn Vaughn, the My Quarterback Squats 600 Pounds shirt is up. Plus, all of our merch is available on their website, phiapparel.co. New design capsule for us is going to be dropping by the end of the week, so make sure you go check that out. And when you guys are rocking the best merch in the business, you're going to stand out at the stadiums, the arena, the bar, wherever it may be. And you guys can use code UNDERGROUND at phiapparel.co for 10% off your order. That's phiapparel.co, code UNDERGROUND, 10% off any and all merch. So go get your merch now. Go get your Trea Turner merch. Go get your Underground Sports, your favorite podcast. Go rep. And they've got some awesome designs in the pipeline as well. So go check them out now and go support us. It's the easiest way to support everything we're doing here at Underground Sports. Just go get your merch. Matt, do you remember the last time the Phillies signed a free agent pitcher away from the Mets?
I do.
Turned out pretty good.
And I think what's interesting, too, is there were similar concerns about Wheeler as there is with Walker, that, second half of the season sort of fades. I do think with Walker it's a little more pronounced. Wheeler, it always felt like, you're making like a smarter bet, but I think it's not like the top level guy, but I think when you see Trea's contract, it's hard to work in now that one of those elite, like a Rodon, right? But I think as far as like getting like an established starter as like a fourth guy, instead of Kyle Gibson, I think I'm good with it.
Yeah.
This is not like blows your door off signing, but this is a good signing, and this is a guy that is going to like provide you quality innings throughout the year, and is going to simultaneously like ease the burden on your starters, while also he's not going to be someone that you're super dependent on either, which is probably going to be good for him in some of his history. So
he's also only 30 years old. Taijuan Walker, your new Phillies pitcher, signs a 4-year, $72 million contract with the Phils last night. Tweets out the just a simple video, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Goes on his Instagram, posts Dreams and Nightmares playing on his phone.
He also got the Bryce Harper text of
just
what to do.
Immediately immersing himself.
I imagine it like a timeshare meeting where like you... It's like a Zoom call, and it's like Bryce Harper. He's not selling you a timeshare though, but he's just like explaining to you like, here's how to get these idiots to love you immediately. It's very simple. Like, there's just simple creatures that live here. But
tweeted this morning, blasting Meek Mill for this workout, and everybody was loving it. He's only 30 years old, which is fantastic. Dylan and I have been the biggest Taijuan Walker fans since he was with the Diamondbacks, and I tweeted going into the 2021 season when a lot of people were talking about Taijuan Walker as a potential fit for the Phillies. I said, bring me Taijuan Walker. 2 years later, they brought me Taijuan Walker. He's made his way around the American League, started his career with the Seattle Mariners, then was traded to the Arizona Diamondbacks in 2017, was there until 2019. Then he went back to the Mariners in 2020, went to the Blue Jays at the trade deadline in 2020, and then signed with the Mets in 2021 and was there last year as well. But like you said, as a number 4 starter to come in, he'll be behind Wheeler, Nola, and Ranger Suarez. Then, you have Taijuan Walker, who also not only very solid pitcher, can get innings for you. He had a 2.6 WAR last year, went 12-5 with a 3.49 ERA in 29 games started, 132 strikeouts in 157 and 1/3 innings. He's also just a really good dude. Has, for Mets fans last year, got, young fans tickets for, parents who may not have been able to afford for their kids to go to Citi Field and go see a Mets game. Hooked fans up with that. Tweeted out during Pride Month, a Love is Love shirt. Like, he's just a very good, community ambassador as well. Like, it would not shock me if Taijuan Walker is one of the nominees next year for the Phillies for the Roberto Clemente Award. And the Phillies need a guy like that on this team. Like, it's very cool to have somebody who's going to immerse themselves into the community that they're in. And I think for him to come in here as the number 4 guy, was an all-star in 2021 for the Mets. I think this is a super solid signing, especially where you think the market's going to go. You saw Jameson Taillon sign with the Cubs for $68 million. He's had injury issues in the past. Carlos Rodon's going to get paid like a mofo when he signs. So to go and get your number 4 guy, he's going to be here till he's 34. I think this is a really, really solid signing for Dave Dombrowski.
Yeah, I mean, price of starting pitching is just, it's a
Crazy.
premium right now. Because everyone needs an additional arm. There's really not a competitive team out there that doesn't want that extra starter. So, the prices may be a little a tick higher than you'd want it to be, but also, again, I think if you're going on the market now, you're just gonna have to pay that little bit of a premium, and that's what. And I think, again, when you talk about Painter and Abel potentially working their way into the lineup here, I think it becomes even better and easier to see how this makes a lot of sense, right? Because this guy could even be conceivably a 5th starter, if the hype is real,
Correct.
But I think it just makes, this is what I was so frustrated about going into last season with some of the starting pitching in the bullpen. It was I think this just makes your life a little bit easier, and it lowers the pressure that is on these young guys to immediately come up and produce. Because there's going to be pressure this year that there wasn't last year. Last year there was the want and maybe some expectation about this team, maybe making the playoffs. The expectation for the Phillies this year, it hasn't hit yet because we're not at that point of where we're really talking about this team and what we expect. But the expectation is going to be that this team wins the division and that this team is back in the World Series. Like it or not, maybe those aren't the most realistic ones, but that is where people's minds are going to be at. Because once you give the people November baseball, they want more November baseball. That's just the way it goes. So, I think, again, just adding someone like this that's going to be able to ease that pressure and not make it so the margin's so fine is important.
Yeah, 100%. And, there's been talk amongst, just online Phillies fans and people who cover the team, making a kind of interesting take for this Phillies team and, this being the year to kind of deploy it. And I think I'm kind of talking myself into it more. How would you feel if the Phillies this year went with an approach of having 6 starters instead of 5?
Yeah, I get where people are coming from with that.
And I think most of this, for everybody listening or watching, it's mostly because you don't know when Andrew Painter's going to get called up if he cracks the opening day roster, which Rob Thompson said he's the guy that would have the best opportunity to. And then you kind of have an opportunity to kind of mess around with, his innings and not overworking him as a 19, 20-year-old. But I don't hate the concept.
I get where people are coming from because I do think though it's a little bit of maybe circular logic is the word. I think it's backwards thinking where it's like, well, the Phillies have struggled with pitching late in the season because of guys being overworked. How can we best avoid doing that? Let's just add an additional rotation person. I think if every team in baseball would be doing it, if it was that easy and that just like accessible. But the thing is, it's not. Even during the regular season where, the fourth or fifth day starters aren't always going to be, blowing your doors off and amazing guys, it's just not easy to find guys that can chew up innings like that. Like it's just a challenge. It's, again, when you're paying 18-20 million for just like above average pitching, right? Like you're not even talking about like star level pitching, elite level pitching that's going to cost you 35, 40 plus million. It's just a challenge. If the Phillies can find the talent, sure. Right?
Yeah.
That's the big question mark. I think, again, like the focus this season should be on like managing innings a little bit more. And that's for not even just pitching JT. I think, you need to take a good look at that, because he managed like 15 games more than the next like pitcher, like just an insane like workhorse. So
it's not like your backup catcher now is Andrew Knapp. It's Garrett Stubbs, who is a very quality above average backup catcher.
Even Andrew Knapp at moments was not not awful, but
and I mean this past season we saw Garrett Stubbs win games for the Phillies.
Absolutely. So I think that has to be the focus now too.
Last one that was reported late last night as well. Todd Zalecki confirming the Phillies will be bringing in Matt Strahm as well for the bullpen, another lefty reliever who I really want to like him a lot. He's an electric factory. We tweeted out from the Underground Twitter just a clip of him from last year getting a big strikeout for the Red Sox, and he's just full of energy. And that's what I think this bullpen needs, is just more guys like that with that cocky confidence. Because that's what you want from your bullpen. Like your bullpens in baseball are almost the equivalent to like defensive backs in football, where like you want them to be as like confident and cocky as possible, because when they're on, but when they're not, you don't even want to see them. He had a 3.83 ERA in 50 appearances for the Red Sox last year. You now have two very quality lefties with him and Alvarado in the bullpen. This is basically like your Brad Hand replacement, which fantastic. He had a better FIP, expected FIP, K percentage, and walk percentage than Brad Hand last year. I think it's a super solid contract, and their Fangraphs is projecting him to be so much better than what Brad Hand will be in 2023. So,
yeah, I think too. Like I was reading like Red Sox fans talk about him, and I think whenever they're like feel a little bummed to be losing out on a guy, you've got yourself. I think too, like part of the issue for him last year was that the Red Sox as a team were pretty injured. Apparently he had to pitch a lot more like high stress, like high value innings that maybe now he doesn't have to do. So that could be beneficial to him as well. So yeah, I it's kind of exactly what I'd asked for. Like give me one of the big four of the shortstops, and then give me like a good starting pitcher and a good bullpen guy, and then we can fill in the rest. And I think it's been already we're sitting here early December, and I feel like the Phillies have had a good offseason.
Yeah,
which is fantastic.
Strahm pitched. He started his career with the Royals, then he went to the Padres for 4 years, and then last year with the Red Sox. I mean, to get him away from a team that who knows what they're going to be, and like you said, had to pitch in a number of situations where we feel like he's not going to have to be this year with the Phillies, that's big time. Just getting better bullpen pieces was a huge point of emphasis for me, and I think for you as well. Like for this team this offseason, you can't go out there and find these retreads like the Corey Knievel's, like the Brad Hands, the stupid Jerry's Familia signing from last year. Like I think this was a very solid 1-2-3 punch so far for the Phillies. Now I think the next question is what's next. I think these are just three big time signings in degree of like 1, 2, 3 going down the line. But now, some of the options we had talked about a couple weeks ago, of like, how do you, fill the void for Bryce Harper in right field? Some of those guys are off the board. Mitch Haniger going to the Giants, along with Arson Judge. Cody Bellinger signs a 1-year deal with the Cubs. Like, there's going to be a little bit of question mark in right field, depending on, what the Phillies do. But I think that's the next thing you try to figure out, who's that, platoon fourth outfielder going to be that's going to be playing a bit more than platoon while Bryce is out for the first half of the year.
Yeah. I think these are like the three main areas, it seems, that the Phillies really wanted to address and were proactive about doing. And I would imagine they will take a more just economic approach.
I think they have about $15 million to spend after the Strom deal before they hit the second luxury tax threshold, which they've never hit in franchise history.
Right. So, and again, they've spent the money. I'm not gonna chastise them, but I think they're gonna be a little penny pinching from here on out, which is fair. Like, when you spent the money that you have again this offseason, I think it makes sense because you want to also give yourself breathing space for trade deadline.
Yes.
Taking on maybe a bigger contract and already thinking about next offseason.
Potential extensions for the guys on this team already, like an Aaron Nola.
Exactly. I think that's fair. Because you only have, 2 more years of Zach Wheeler too. Like, it's just, there's just a lot. There's a lot more than just the money for this season that gets considered.
And I think part of this offseason too, even though we went to the World Series last year, I think part of this offseason was the moves the Phillies made at the deadline last year. Going and getting Brandon Marsh, so you don't have to focus on center field now this offseason. Going and getting Edmundo Sosa, so you don't have to worry about that bench, defensive, late inning replacement guy. You don't have to sign that guy in free agency. You traded for him. So, I think those two moves alone helped a lot. And, just looking at the free agent ticker now, another guy we talked about for the bullpen, Kenley Jansen, goes to the Red Sox. So he's out of the division at least now, too, which is big. Like we mentioned, Jose Quintana signs with the Mets. But now you look, down the line of who's still available. And we don't have to worry about Aaron Judge in the National League as well, which is great. Thank you, Yankees, finally doing something of note. You're looking at the next round of free agency almost. Noah Syndergaard's still out there. I wouldn't hate if the Phillies were able to bring him back on a 1-year deal. I thought he was, we've talked about it a number of times, he was fantastic for what he was, for the type of pitcher he is now. He was great. To bring him back, I think, would be a very smart decision by the Phillies. And then you look, down the line at some of these, potential bullpen guys. Craig Kimbrell is a free agent still. Zach Britton is a free agent still. Will Smith. Looking in, the Corey Knebel, I doubt he's back just because of the injury stuff. Mike Minor is a free agent. He's kind of a bullpen guy at this point in his career as well. But, that's kind of where you are in terms of the free agent pitching market almost, is kind of just looking at this next round of guys and if anybody fits into the equation there. Michael Givens, who was a deadline acquisition for the Mets bullpen last year. So, it's not the creme de la creme, but it is that next tier of guys where you can get away with, hey, we'll give you a 1-year contract. We'll give you a 1-year prove-it deal. Alex Colomé, who's been tied to the Phillies for the last, 5 years, is a free agent as well. So, that's kind of what the Phillies are going to be looking at now as the winter meetings, kind of come to a close.
Yeah. Stove got hot pretty quick.
Pretty hot. Aaron Judge signs, too, which is great. We don't have to worry about that anymore. Going back to the Yankees, he's going to be the captain now of the Yankees as well.
Dude finessed an extra $130 million, so
good for him.
Maybe the best contract year?
Yes. Easy. Especially having the contract year after a new CBA gets signed.
Yeah.
So good job by him. I'm going to add this guy to the list of potential platoon outfielders, Raimel Tapia. He's a left fielder by trade. So, you could use him in left field if you want to put Schwarber at DH and play some guys elsewhere. He's only 28. He'll be 29, I think, by the time the season starts. I think he's a severely underrated outfielder. Was with the Blue Jays last year. Spent most of his career with the Rockies. I would really like him on this team. And just looking through some of the other free agent outfielder options here now that, our guy Mitch Haniger's off the board, which stinks. But he got paid by the Giants as their Aaron Judge replacement, if you will. So looking at the outfielders now of who you have, and, Philly's not getting the alleged signing from Japan either. He's going to the Red Sox now.
For a lot of money.
Yeah, 100 milli. Good for him. Looking here, the likes of AJ Pollock is a free agent. Adam Duvall is a free agent. Kevin Kiermaier still a free agent. So you're kind of you've got some solid options if you want to bring a fourth outfielder in from the outside. Jurickson Profar free agent, that would be hilarious to sign him after the complaining he did in the NLCS. Like I said, Raimel Tapia, Corey Dickerson, Kevin Pillar. So, there's names still out there in the outfield market, and it wouldn't shock me either if Dave Dombrowski decides, hey, we're going to make a trade as well.
Yeah.
So, that's where we're at the Phils, which is it's just all good vibes with the Philadelphia Phillies now. And even though Bryce isn't playing, 3 guys still on the World Baseball Classic roster. Kyle Schwarber commits to Team USA. Trey Turner's in. JT is in. It's all good. It's all coming up Phillies. Speaking of coming up good, the Philadelphia Eagles. It's time to talk some birds. Brought to you by our friends over at Trophy Smack. Guys, it's never too late to upgrade your fantasy smack talk, and you can do that instantly with our friends at Trophy Smack. They've got metal wall art now to upgrade your fantasy smack talk. They've got trophies, rings, belts, you name it. I'm sure the fantasy leagues you're in have been around for quite some time, and their trophies need some upgrading. You guys can go to trophysmack.com/underground and go upgrade that fantasy smack talk today. That's trophysmack.com/underground. Link is in the description, both on audio and on YouTube. Matt Jalen Hurts, back-to-back weeks, the Offensive Player of the Week. A.J. Brown gets maybe the best revenge game of all time as the guy who traded him gets fired the same week. Everything's coming up Eagles now in the NFL. They're sitting pretty at the top of the division, sitting pretty at the top of the NFL. And now you've got a date with the New York Giants, who are kind of starting to come back down to earth a little bit.
Yeah. They've obviously had a tough stretch recently, and I think you could make the case, too, that the Giants, even when they were playing well, or winning games, I should say, we're not necessarily playing well. It's a little bit of variance, I think, with a little bit of the Giants this season. So that Titans game was fantastic. I think it was a game to have some reasonable concern about with the way the Titans have played this year. And Treylon Burks getting knocked out of the game very early on does not help the Titans offense in any way. But yeah, I think it's a big statement game. It's again, you're just keeping pace at the top of the conference as well, top of the division, because I'll say the Eagles and Cowboys have really separated themselves, I think, as the two teams, especially when you consider Jimmy Garoppolo's injury and what that does for the 49ers. It really, I think, caps their ceiling. It has to, honestly.
Even though it's reported now it's not season ending, but
right, it's he has the potential to return in 7-8 weeks. Okay.
How much of football shape is he going to be in?
Right, it's just what he's going to get thrown into a potential NFC Championship game. It's
against this potential Eagles defense.
Right, I don't know. I just think I think you have to think of them as taking a step backwards now, and
defense still very good, but
absolutely
you got to be able to score.
Can keep you in the game, but right, I'm just imagining Brock Purdy going into Philadelphia and winning a game or something. That's just
it's like Case Keenum 2.0.
So now that Cowboys game in a few weeks, though, is really, talk about it's going to mean something, because I think that'll be that could be the game, the way it's going, that could clinch the division for the Eagles, but also really, tie up obviously the number 1 seed too. I think too that we'll settle a lot of, because the narrative for the next 2 weeks, I expect, is going to be about these two teams and how good they are, and
who have they really played.
Right. Yeah, I think there'll be questions in that regard too. So, but it means a lot, because the Cowboys, I don't think will want to play the Buccaneers.
Yeah.
as not great as the Buccaneers have looked, it's still tough. But both teams, the Cowboys have the Texans and Jaguars next. You'd expect that they're winning those games.
Right.
The Eagles have the Giants and Bears next. You expect, based on the way the season has gone, that the Eagles will be winning those games. So both teams will, again, still just be separated by a little bit. 2 games going into that, with the Eagles already having the tiebreaker. Yeah. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it.
This Christmas Eve game also might be the Cowboys saying hello to their recruit. As I don't know if you saw the tweet this morning, Matt. Pro Football Talk's Mike Florio from the Pro Football Talk account, because that's where he tweets from, tweeted this morning at 8:16 a.m. Last year when the OBJ free agency sputtered, we said, watch the Rams. As this year's OBJ free agency sputters, I'll say this, watch the Eagles. Didn't make a lot of sense to me at all when I saw this, because I saw all my time, I was like, why is everyone talking about keep Odell Beckham Jr. away from this Eagles locker room? Like, we're not even, like, trying to sign him. And then I saw this tweet, and I was like, well, that came out of nowhere. Odell's been getting, like, shown around Dallas like he's, a high school recruit going to college. Was at the Mavs game the other night with a bunch of Cowboys players. The Cowboys official account a couple weeks ago tweeting like Dak Prescott's pitch to Odell, and then it comes out and says that the Cowboys weren't, there were some red flags about Odell and his injury and just the recovery process, and they don't know if they want to make that commitment, which is just beyond comical to me.
I think we talked about it like a week or two ago. I've never seen this like advanced public even during like the off season, when it's like there's a big free agent. I've just never seen this kind of like courting happen, especially in football where it's just not, I don't know. It's bizarre, and I think too, he is coming off an ACL injury. He's not
second one, same knee.
He's not exactly young. Just what is his impact? Right away. Like he comes in January and has to like work himself into shape, and has to like learn whatever system it is and learn his role. Like it's not like he's not next year couldn't be like a nice player to have in your team, right? But like I just feel like the impact. I feel like people are just hanging on to the fact that he played well in the Super Bowl, and really unfortunately got injured in the Super Bowl, which sucks. Like that's terrible, and also like another casualty of the SoFi Stadium turf, which is ridiculous. But I just think people have gotten a little overblown on it. Of like what is the actual value that Odell Beckham is bringing you? I don't know that it's equal to the hype that the free agency chase of Odell Beckham Jr. is giving you.
Yeah, and apparently part of the situation too is that Odell wanted to be signed through 2023 as well, which I mean from his point of view makes a ton of sense. Like you want a little bit of stability if you're going somewhere to sign, especially coming off the injuries and everything, but it doesn't look like he's going to end up in Dallas. The other 2 teams that were in the mix were his former team, the New York Giants, and the Buffalo Bills, where his best friend Von Miller plays, who is now out for the year with an ACL injury of his own. I just don't see where, and like, is Odell Beckham Jr. on paper a very talented player? Absolutely. Like, he was one of those guys Eagles fans like hated to love because he played for the Giants and was such a, game-changing dynamic player. But, where does he fit in this Eagles offense that has been high octane and running on all cylinders with the guys that are already here? Nick Sirianni said, when people asked him about the rumors, like he said, this is the best wide receiver group I've ever been able to coach, at any point in my NFL career, which, I mean, I completely agree with him. This wide receiver room is super talented. And he said he loves the room that they have, kind of did the typical coach speak about it. I just don't see where Odell kind of fits into the equation because of, obviously, A.J. Brown is here, Devontae Smith is here. You're not taking those guys off the field. And I think Quez Watkins has done a more than serviceable job as your slot receiver. So are you going to sign Odell to have him be like your 4th wide receiver?
Yeah, I just feel like it doesn't make a ton of sense. Again, I just feel like the hype is really outweighing the potential impact. So,
and I mean, people, Bleeding Green Nation talking about, Mike Florio getting scoops. He tweeted on Tuesday, "Don't be surprised if the Rams end up with Baker Mayfield." Like, sure, like, he's one of those guys. He's not your traditional insider like an Adam Schefter or anything like that. But Mike Florio gets information fed to him about specific players that he has good relationships with, and that's my biggest question. Like, if the Eagles are gonna go and sign Odell Beckham Jr. for whatever reason, like, I just don't know where he fits in on a game day on the roster in terms of just like him getting the amount of reps that he would probably want to get, and then does it, taking away from the guys who have been playing so well already in this offense, and then having to have Jalen Hurts build more chemistry with another guy. You also have Dallas Goedert coming back soon, so like that's also a receiving weapon for this Eagles team. But I mean, if Howie Roseman just wants to say, "Hey, I'm going to put my nuts on the table and take away a guy from a division rival who just got wined and dined by them, may have gotten some, tidbits about the playbook or something. You're playing the Cowboys in a couple weeks," like, I guess, but that was the first thing that popped in my head, is just like, where does he fit into the equation? And I just don't exactly know. I mean, he's a fun weapon too in terms of the postseason, where you don't really need to be as intricate as you are in the regular season with a guy coming in late. Like, you can kind of just be like, "Hey, here's your route tree that you're going to run," and just go. But you also got to see if, he can actually run and that kind of stuff. Hasn't done a workout per se with any of these teams. He's kind of just visited. So it's an interesting thing to keep an eye on. But again, I just don't see where he fits in the grand scheme of this offense that has been incredibly like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Could not agree more.
Wanted to get your thoughts too, now that, this week is past, another week of Player of the Week. Chiefs end up losing. How much do you think that helped Jalen Hurts' MVP stock?
I think it helps. I think it doesn't help that Patrick Mahomes himself did not have a bad game, like really through no fault of his own. Actually felt like the loss was in spite of Patrick Mahomes' best efforts, but yeah, I think it'll depend a lot what happens these last few weeks. Again though, Patrick Mahomes has I think the narrative is still in his favor, and I still think the odds are. But if Jalen Hurts, if the Eagles end up only losing one game, it's gonna. I think it's gonna be very hard to not be giving the MVP to him.
Yeah, and you guys can go check out all the MVP props, everything for the rest of the NFL season, this baseball off season, the NBA, NHL, college football playoff, college basketball, everything at playpickup.com. It's the best place to play props. It's free to play. All you got to do is sign up with your phone number. There's no passwords to remember, no username. It's just your phone number. And you rack up points on your fan profiles by getting prop predictions correct. And then you cash those points in for prizes on the pickup marketplace. So go to playpickup.com now and start playing those headlines. Matt, I saw an interesting voicemail on another podcast where somebody called in and asked the hosts, who in your life would you want to write, like the Bible chapters about your life? And I wanted to put a fun spin on this, not necessarily about who we would want to write the chapters about our lives, but who do you think, in the grand scheme of Philadelphia sports history, athlete, fan, coach, whoever it may be, who do you think would be the best of the best to write the Philadelphia sports Bible chapters?
Like, I'm picking someone that, like, this person is writing it, or I'm writing it about these people?
That person is writing. So it's like them helping tell the story of Philadelphia sports fandom. It could be, former current athlete, former current coach, a fan that, we have our Hall of Fame fans that we see across the board. But it got me thinking about who would help write the best Philly sports Bible, of past and present.
Man, I think I'd want to go Dr. J. I think I'd want Allen Iverson. I don't know that you could. Both of those guys, I think, have their own part in Philly sports history, but are also like from two different generations.
Yeah.
So yeah, like the book of Dr. J, reading from the book of AI, of the answer. So those would be my two like off the top guesses. I think that I would want, because like Dr. J I think gives you that like smooth, and I think like gives you that like he's a recognizable figure, and so is Allen Iverson, honestly. But Allen Iverson too, I think adds a little bit of. I'm just imagining Allen Iverson sitting down for like a documentary type of thing, or like going into the recording booth and like doing a voiceover, and I like find that like really charming and funny. So
I think those are the two Sixers I would pick as well. Honorable mention is obviously Joel. I mean, we could probably do, because it's what, four guys from the traditional Bible. Probably do four for each team.
Mark, Luke, and John.
So I mean, Dr. J, Allen Iverson, Joel Embiid, and
Barkley,
Mike Muscala.
Mike Muscala certainly has a place for sure.
I mean, Larry Brown,
certainly,
or Brett Brown, probably.
You could do Mo Cheeks. You could do like a lot of Phillies. Sixers got a lot to choose from. For sure. I don't know for other sports. It's tough because there's not many people that stick out. Like,
I think the Phillies.
Lenny Dykstra. I gotta tell you, for entertainment value, Lenny Dykstra would be. I think. I mean, like John Kruk and Mike.
Kruk
Schmidt,
would.
I think, would be the two. I think right off the bat that are.
I think Kruk.
And then just kind of your pick of anyone from the 08. I think that's how that would go.
Jimmy Rollins is probably.
Jimmy Rollins, well spoken. I think he'd be good. It brings that, like, he has like good charisma. Probably Victorino.
That's a good one too. Do you throw Bryce in the mix?
Not yet.
I
just think I'm just also imagining like I like Bryce.
Oh, you know who goes.
I don't know that I want to be listening. Like it's just like.
It's got to be Charlie Manuel.
Yeah. Hard to argue with that.
I think it's got to be Charlie Manuel.
Swing from your ass.
It's hitting season, boys. Eagles. I think you got to go. I think Doug Peterson has to be part of the equation since he won the Super Bowl and was here as a player, so you get kind of two different vantage points.
Yeah, Carson Wentz. I mean, if we're talking Bible. Certainly, he might have already made one.
Yeah.
It's
been passed around state by state. I think Brian Dawkins goes into the mix.
Absolutely.
Let's see. I mean, Jason Kelsey, I think, is also in there. And then
David Akers.
I mean, if we're also going dead or alive, you want to talk Bible verses, the minister of defense.
Yeah.
You go Reggie White.
Yeah, Reggie White.
From that era.
Absolutely.
I think that's a solid one. And I think Andy Reid would be in there for some people over Doug, but I think Doug Peterson gets you both perspectives from a player and coach standpoint. Flyers is an interesting one just because I forget they exist sometimes.
It's probably for the best.
Yeah.
I would pick. I think generally people would pick like Lindros, right? Like because he's like this like I don't know,
transcending.
Yeah, like people really have attached themselves to Derek Lindros for better or for worse. I mean, one of my favorite Flyers of all time is Keith Primeau, so I would have to. I almost like want to give it to Jim Jackson, even though he's not.
Yeah.
But he to me is like such an iconic voice.
I like that.
Add Merrill Reese to the Eagles list.
Yeah,
too,
100%.
Like,
Merrill and Mike.
Yeah, really like put Zumoff on the Sixers list. Like give them all. So I think again, if you're writing an actual Bible verse, probably best for the people that went to like journalism school.
The broadcasting people,
and then actually like write
Harry Callis.
Write these things on the regular.
Claude Giroux, I think.
Claude Giroux. It's got to be someone that's like is like kind of good at talking
Yeah,
which is tough with hockey players.
very true.
Because they're just like, I think, naturally a like more reserved bunch. Who would I say is like really just been outspoken? I'm gonna bring Donald Brashear back and just.
I think a lot of people would say Bernie Perrant.
Yeah.
Hextall would be interesting.
Yeah, you could do Hextall. You could do, man. You could do like the Jeff Carter, Mike Richards. That's like one of those old band documentaries with Unplugged, like
behind the music.
Behind the music. Yeah, there you go.
And then the Philadelphia Union.
Man, it's tough because I mean, it's like a team without a ton of history. I think you'd have to get Latu, just because I think of his importance to like the team in its early stages, its most formative stages.
He's almost like the Jim Tomei of the Union.
I think you'd have to do Jim Curtin at this point. Like,
yeah.
I don't. There's just not a ton.
Arguably best coach in the city.
Not a ton to pick from. Bedoya and Blake would probably be like
the
players I think that would, especially Bedoya, I think.
Yeah. I like that. There it is. Your Philly Sports Bible. Brought to you by our brains. We'll touch on the basketball team in this city. Tyrese Maxey out of his walking boot, still no timetable on his return, and I think Big Bro Zoe said it best. Good for him. He doesn't need this team besmirching his name. Sixers are just bad, man. Like,
I was actually thinking about this in the shower, because the process was meant to get this team to a place where it was like a perennial like top 3 seed, and for like a few years that was the Sixers.
Yeah.
And like we weren't going to be the team that's like in this like weird like mixed zone, and here we are. And it's like I've never felt more despondent about the Sixers, where it's like I just, man, watched like 2 minutes of Monday. I was like, I'm out.
like the Eagles being as good as they are, and the Phillies just being back.
Yeah, it's tough.
It's like I have no interest right now in devoting early December dedication to a team that won't get out of their own way because they failed to realize that coaching is an issue.
Vibes are bad, and it feels like a bad environment with Doc around, and it just until he's gone, I just it's so hard to care. It's so because it's the same thing. It's just watching the same show over and over again. It's not fun
at all.
It's not enjoyable, and it's just tough to watch.
And it's like, I saw somebody bring it up too. There's so much talk from former employees in the Sixers organization at so many levels, and like just how toxic of a place it is to work, and just like how not fun it is. And I feel like the dam has finally broken, and it's trickled down onto the team.
Yeah, I mean, the body language is not good. I don't think the post game pressers are good. I just think again I think Doc was part of that, man.
Yep.
I really do. I think it was a mistake to hire him. It was a mistake to not fire him. I think you've had 2 very reasonable times to do that.
Yeah.
The last 2 seasons. For as much blame as you want to put on Ben Simmons for that Hawks series, I think an equal amount should be going to one Mr. Doc Rivers. So, yeah.
And you just see like how much ownership actually matters in the city now too. Like you look at the Eagles where Jeffrey Lurie cares, and the front office cares about winning. They want that to be like the gold standard. You see what the Phillies did, where John Middleton realized, hey, something's not working, and we've got to make a change. You bring in Dave Dombrowski. Dombrowski realizes something's got to change. They fire Girardi, and they go to the World Series, and now this team at least is like showing that they're starting to care and showing that winning is important again, and it's not just all talk. It's not just John Middleton going to WIP in 2017 anymore, saying he's going to get his trophy back and waiting around. We're in that moment now, which I think is super important for the Phillies as a team and as an organization. You look at the Union, like, they care about winning. They care about being the best at developing talent, the best at, putting the number one product out on the field to help not only those players get to that next level, but also this team to win. And they've kind of been the gold standard of the MLS and this city over the past couple of seasons to show what a true winner is about. And then you look at the Wells Fargo Center and both teams playing in there, like, ownership just does not give a shit about any of that.
I will say the Sixers ownership at least is like willing to spend the money, but it feels like it just feels like it's been mismanaged.
Yes.
Like it feels like we've spent the money, but it has not been in the best, most efficient way. And it feels like, again, like the Sixers are sort of collecting a bill from like the 18-19 season up until now, where it's like there was just that the Elton Brand era, the Colangelo era, just damaged this team in a lot of ways, like going forward, especially asset wise. And now you've kind of put yourself in a tough spot. And it's always going to be tough to work your way out of that. And I just think it's all kind of compounded on them now, and that's what you're seeing.
Yeah, so that's where we're at with the Sixers. The Flyers, just again, kind of being the Flyers and what we expected them to be. But Matt, let's get to Survivor 43, penultimate episode, I think, of this season tonight. And quite the episode last week where we get a classic Survivor challenge. 3 people with immunity, almost 4, had Sammy shot in the dark worked. But Sammy gets voted out. Still nobody knows that he's 19 years old. And now it's kind of, balls to the wall. Let's see what happens tonight. But I thought it was pretty interesting that they brought back the challenge that they did.
Yeah, I never thought we'd see that one again. Bit of a... I've noticed that they've been bringing back some challenge, like for me, some challenges that at least I'm like, damn, I remember that one. That one though, like I always thought, like I don't know that we'll see that one again. So, and then they outlast the literal ocean, which is just like.
I also love the editing in the challenge, bringing back the classic Survivor music throughout it was very nice. I would love for an opening intro every week again, because those are always fun. But unreal that they were able to. Both Owen and Carla make it past high tide.
And Cody making the smart bets.
Yep.
That's what we like.
Cody knows how to pick them. Pretty crazy tribal. I don't know that I necessarily saw Sammy being the guy getting voted out from just the way the episode flowed, but he joins the jury, and now we're down to the final 6.
Yeah. Sammy, it felt like was just a little bit on the outside, but like He was talking about playing a shot in the dark. I was like, damn, really? And then you see the vote. I was like, okay, well, clearly. I think it's one of those occasions where the players, like, on the beach know just a lot more than we do.
Yeah.
And there's 43 minutes that they get to show us. You're not going to be able to fit the entire time that you want into it. So,
is that the last time we see the shot in the dark in Survivor history?
Probably. Yeah.
That'll be nice.
He at least used it in a situation, too, where it was like it made sense for him to use it. Sammy impressed me a little bit. Like, I kind of seemed like, he's just going to be like kind of a goofball, but like, did actually seem to like have a decent like handle on the game. Like, I know, he gets voted out and whatever, but like, felt like he actually like was a player, Sometimes you see like, especially like a 19-year-old, it's not common for them to actually be there and not just feel like they're kind of just there. Did feel like a pillar, and like his own like player in his own right. Didn't really feel like he was being dragged there by anyone.
100%. So we're down to Cody, Cassidy, Carla, Gabler, Owen, and Jesse, who, if you would have told me preseason this would be your final 6, I don't think I would have believed you.
Yeah. I am excited because, again, it's the same feeling I have last week. I just feel like anyone can win. You could tell me any one of those players to win, and I don't know that I'd be surprised to see the path for all of them. and I'm really looking forward to seeing how it shapes up, because this is where it gets like, you really kind of have to be perfect.
Yeah.
And some things have to break your way a little bit here to get to the end. So
I think of this final 6, Cody has impressed me the most.
Cody's impressed me a lot. Jesse's impressed me a lot. Carla's impressed me a lot. Those are the 3 I think that have impressed me the most. But again, Gabler, Owen, and Cassidy, I think, have all played a good game too to get to this stage. So I'd be excited to see any of them win.
And it's even from original tribe distribution, 2 from each original tribe still left. Still have a tri-state, our tri-state that we claim, Philly, New York, or New Jersey and Delaware, because Carla's from Newark. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting, final 6, and then getting down to that eventual final 3 next week. But again, still have no idea who's going to win this whole thing.
Yeah, it's hard to read right now.
It's been a wild season. Very excited to see how it all goes down. Make sure you guys follow @Buffs and Snuffs on Twitter, and follow us on the socials, Twitter, Instagram, @UndergroundPHI. You can follow Matt on Twitter, @Matt Castorina. Follow me at KBIZZL311. Subscribe to the podcast feed, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. We are there. Leave those 5-star ratings and reviews. It really does go a long way for helping us continue to grow the show. And subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel, where you get full video episodes, live streams, and original content, all on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@UndergroundSportsPhiladelphia. Make sure you subscribe, smash that like button, ring the bell icon, and comment down below your thoughts on everything Matt and I discussed tonight, your excitement about Trey Turner, Taiwan Walker, and Matt Strahm. And big thank you to our sponsors who make this show happen: Main Auto LLC, Security 21 Security Systems, Paul J. Gillespie Incorporated, and the Dental Wellness Center of Vineland. But this has been episode number 488 of Underground Sports Philadelphia. For Matt, I'm KB. Till next time, we are signing off. Peace.